The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and we are coming to you around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right around this great big blue planet of ours. If you'd like to send an email, X-Zone at X-Zone Radio TV on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and of course our main website at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Now, I know that for the past couple of days our Apple iTunes have been down. Thanks to the good people at the Apple iTunes, we are back up and running. So to the good people at Apple, thank you very much for being so kind, courteous, and swift in correcting the problems we had. You know, I love my job. I've got the greatest job in the world. I've been doing this show for 22 years now. And my guest this hour was one of our very first guests. Her name is Patti Conklin, and she believes that our words have more of an impact in our lives than we realize. They manifest within our bodies the second they are thought or spoken, storing up over a lifetime through vibrations. These words come with an emotional attachment and can create psychological blockages in our energy flow, not to mention physical blockages, creating illness or disease. And in her groundbreaking book, God Within, The Day God's Train Stopped, Patti describes how these buildups have occurred, what they mean, and how to break them down and prevent them altogether. Now, Patti is a world-class energy healer and much sought-after facilitator who has shared her experiences and changed the lives of hundreds of workshops. That should be thousands, I would imagine, by now. She is a frequent keynote speaker and presenter at alternative and allopathic conventions. She is the creator of ColorWorks, a visualization process that uses active vibration within your body to release or heal specific symptoms, emotions, or physical changes. Her website is www.patticonklin.com. That's PATTICONKLIN.com. And we're talking to Patti about her new book this hour, God Within, The Day God's Train Stopped. Joining me now is our good friend Patti Conklin. And Patti, welcome back to the X-Zone. Great having you with us.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's just so wonderful to hear your voice and be back with all of your listeners and being able to have the opportunity to talk about the book.
You know, I've got to congratulate you on this book because you and I were talking before we went on air. And this book, God Within, The Day God's Train Stopped, was actually sitting on your shelf for 16 years. And when I asked you why it hadn't been published before now, you said the timing wasn't right.
Yeah. There were a couple of different things that came into factor. One, I just felt like I wasn't ready for the attention. I just felt like I needed to continue focusing on my work and working with people. And then the second reason was I really wanted my personal life to be in a place where I had time to do the interviews and had time in my life that to promote it the way that I felt that it needed to be promoted. So it all came together this year, and finally decided it was time.
You know, and I've got a little bit of a theory here. It may not have been time 16 years ago for people to realize the importance of what you and I are going to be discussing this hour, because there's been so many changes over the last 16 years, Patti. And I think now the time is right, and people are willing to listen, accept, and believe.
I totally agree. I think that people across the board, especially the last 10, 12 years, have been changing and shifting and becoming more aware. You know, we have phenomenal Western technology.
Yep.
I mean, and in terms of the medical field, we're phenomenal. But even doctors and scientists have gotten to the space where they understand there's a piece missing. And this is the piece that's missing. I'm convinced of it. And so even doctors and scientists are to the point where they're listening now to the lectures that I give, and certainly the MDs who have read the book so far say, yes, this is the missing piece. This is the piece that needs to come into play between Western and alternative medicine.
I agree with you 150%, Patti. Please stand by. You and I have to take our first 2-minute commercial break. Exonation, my guest this hour, is a good friend of the Exxon. Patti Conklin is her name. She's the author of a new book, God Within, The Day God's Train Stopped. Her website is www.patticonklin.com. That's www.patticonklin.com. Patti and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as the Exxon continues from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Exonation, as I've been promoting over the last month, help Sylvia Anthony's dream to come true. Visit www.sylviasdream.org. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X-Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Patti Conklin is my guest this hour. She has a new book out. It's entitled God Within, The Day God's Train Stopped. Her website is patticonklin.com. Hey, Patti, I have to ask you, God Within, I understand, but the day God's train stopped?
That actually came to me in a dream when I was 5 years old, Rob, before I ever had my first visitation or understood my work. But the day God's train stopped, Father had told me when I was 7 that 38 would be the beginning of my learning curve from 38 to 42. And right before I turned 38, I was in a dream. And in my dream, I was on a train. And I realized it was stopped. And I looked out the window and it was off the track. And I turned around and Jesus and Mother Mary were standing behind me. And Jesus looked at me and he said, "We're giving you a choice. You can get off the train and continue to live your life, or we'll put the train back on the track and you will continue to be of service until you cross. And but it's your choice and you need to make it now." And I thought for a few minutes, and I said, "I will be of service." And all of a sudden, the train was lifted and set back on the track, and off we went, and it's been that way ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah. We are what we say. Now, you mentioned this in Chapter 2, that words have made us conditional beings. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is when we speak in anything less than unconditionalism, and not necessarily unconditional love, but when we hold the space of fear and, subsets anger, jealousy, whatever, that it slows down our frequency field, and it really slows down the subtle energy field, which in science we call the immune system. And so when we have behaviors or emotions that are less than unconditional and become conditional, we actually make our bodies more dense. And the more dense it becomes, energy is energy until it's not. And when it stops moving, then we classify it as a disease. Then we have a label of a disease that then begins in the body because of the lack of movement. And so, understanding that when you're speaking, even if you're speaking about, a person on the other side of the restaurant that's got a, bright neon orange, shirt on, and you're
right.
going, "Oh my gosh, that shirt looks ridiculous." Your body doesn't know you're speaking of that person. Your body only knows that you spoke those words in judgment, and your body begins to slow down.
Wow. Now, you described having lupus. Now, I understand that this is a non-treatable disease from which you were cured in a miraculous manner. How did that happen, and did that experience begin your healing work with others, Patti?
It was the precursor to it. I had lupus in my early 30s, in the 1980s, and I had it critically for 3 years, Rob. It took out my right kidney. I had heart failures, ulcerations all over my body, nerve damage, and the doctors had given me less than 6 years to live.
Wow.
And so in that critical condition, I faced death. I mean, I knew that it was incurable and that I was going to die. And I received a visitation from what I consider a father, creator, source, whatever you want to call it. And it showed me how to move colors through my body as a frequency. So as soon as the visitation was done, I said, well, what color do I need to remove the lupus? And I started all these colors. Black came in first, and then some red and so forth. And I did the process for 5-10 minutes, and nothing happened. I still felt horrible. And I thought, why would you show me something that doesn't work? And I sat with it, and I realized the issue was in my tissues. and I'm really clear about that. Issues are in your tissues, and mine was lack of self-worth, because I was working in PhD positions in nonprofit world, in 30 different